Welcome to the Your Home Sold Guaranteed radio show, where you get advice you can trust. From home selling tips to investing, this is the talk show that will help you make the most money when selling your most valuable asset and save the most money when buying. Now here are your hosts, Dave McKay, along with Wally Kerr, broker and founder of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty in Oklahoma City.
Well, this is the Your Home Sold Guaranteed radio show. As always, it's brought to you by Best Protect Roofing and Construction, and also by Chris Doak with Gateway Mortgage. I'm Dave McKay, joined as always by Wally and Cindy Kerr.
Good morning, Dave.
Good morning.
How are you this week?
I'm doing good. It was a pretty good week. It's rather cold today. The nice weather was during the week. It should be
changed
on
a little bit, didn't it? Yeah,
yes,
sure.
Yes, it did.
We did have a loss in our real estate family this week. I want to dedicate today's radio show to Trinity Kitchens. She was a young, really dedicated agent on our team who loved serving people, helping people with their best interests, buying and selling. A tragic accident last week took her life. I won't elaborate a lot, just to say we want to dedicate today's show to Trinity and to her family.
Very nice. Well, as far as today's show, what do we have on the docket?
Well, we got some great topics, and I want to say thanks to Cindy because she's been helping write some topics and subjects, so she does a great job in helping me out there. She's got a nice little smirk on her face right now, if you could see her. So, but we have faces for radio. Actually, I have a face for radio. Cindy should probably be the star of the show and be in video, don't you think, Dave?
Absolutely.
Well, I love to read the news, and I read my phone constantly. And so, I'm always looking at real estate topics and comparing them with our
36 years in real estate. Can you believe it?
Year knowledge
We started
of real
when we were
estate.
12 each, right?
But I'm always doing that and kind of stacking up the news with what do I know. And it's really been a good way to bring this information to our listeners.
Dave, we're going to talk today about how baby boomers and the greatest generation individuals might be kind of to blame for this housing shortage. We talk a lot about this lack of inventory. We'll talk about that a little bit today and see who's really guilty in this current economy, if there is anybody guilty. Yeah. We'll have some fun with it today, okay? And then I think you'll like this. How do today's mortgage rates, they're higher, right?
Yes.
You probably heard.
Yes.
They've gone up a little bit more over the last week, and we'll talk about that. But how do they compare if you look over the last 50-year period? On average, are they higher? Are they lower? Are they about the same? So we'll share that today. We'll talk about some open houses and got some weekly wisdom to share with you again this week, as we always do. I think we'll have a lot of fun and we'll move fast on today's show.
That's all coming up this hour. And as always, if you can't stick around for the rest of the hour, all the shows are podcasted on all the major podcast platforms, Spotify, iHeart, Apple. As always, go to wallytalkshouses.com. All of the shows are there in bite-sized morsels, so you can
we get some of those brownie bites.
Yeah, there you go. Just click the little follow button at the top there, and you'll get all the segments, and you'll be notified when new segments come down, as always.
That's exactly right. You can go through and scroll through and see what you like, download, put them on your podcast, listen in your car. Got lots and lots of topics, a lot of knowledge we've shared.
And if you can't wait, tomorrow at noon, if you're listening today, Saturdays when we do the show live, tomorrow at noon is the replay. So join us again tomorrow as well. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
To schedule an appointment with Wally Kerr to help you or a family member buy or sell a home, call or text at 405-330-3000 or go to wallysguarantee.com. Wally will be right back with more of the Your Home Sold Guaranteed radio show right here on KOKC.
Would you like to know what your home would sell for today? Get a simple text message with your home's value by texting your address to 330-3000. You'll get no phone call, just a text. Wally has the buyers at Kerr Team Real Estate. Simply text your address to 330-3000.
Best Protect Roofing and Construction has been serving the Oklahoma community since 2017 with trusted professionals and a proven track record. Best Protect Roofing and Construction has the local knowledge to ensure every roofing project is compliant and hassle-free. They offer free roof inspections to assess damage, provide accurate quotes, and recommend the best solution for your home. Call today, 405-473-9599. Best Protect Roofing and Construction.
Finding the right mortgage can be stressful, from knowing which program fits your situation the best to identifying the best terms. Hi, I'm Chris Doak with Gateway Mortgage. I work closely with you every step of the way, from pre-qualification to helping you choose the home loan that's right for you. My promise is to provide transparency, timely communication, personal service, and closings on time. Call me today at 405-253-2276. That's 405-253-2276.
NMLS 984758. Gateway Mortgage, a division of Gateway First Bank. NMLS 7233, Equal Housing Lender.
So you thought interest rates were going to go down? Hey, me too. It's Wally Kerr, and despite today's interest rates, the market's already picking up. Why sell your home without a safety net? It's like walking a high wire at the circus. There's just too much at stake. Call me to get your written guarantee that I'll sell your home in an agreed period or buy it myself at a price you and I agree to up front. Ask for Wally when you call us today at your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty at 330-3000. 330-3000.
If you or a family member will be selling or buying a home and would like to schedule an appointment with Wally, call 405-330-3000 or go to wallysguarantee.com. Now back to the Your Home Sold Guaranteed radio show with Wally Kerr.
Cindy, you had mentioned something. I want to ask you this. I heard you received an interesting check in the mail. What is that about? Will you elaborate?
Sure. Let me tell you the story about that. About a month ago, I got a check from one of these investors in the mail. It actually wasn't negotiable. It said there were lots of contingencies.
Okay.
It looked like a check. It was for $260,500, payable to Wally and me. Well, and there was a letter attached. It said, "This is an offer on a house you have in Norman." And it was actually, interestingly enough, a house that Wally and I had tenants just move out of and were planning to sell. So we really do want to sell the house. The house is only worth, in its present condition, maybe $200, fixed up maybe $220.
Okay.
So I showed this check to Wally that said $260,500, and I said, "What do you think?"
And
of
I
this?"
said sold.
Wally said, "Well, I'm interested in that." So I called the people and I said, "I got your check for this house we have in Norman, and honestly, we are thinking of selling it." And the man on the other line said to me, "Well, that's our marketing department that puts those out. I've told them those aren't realistic values." So it felt very bait and switch to me right off the bat. But I wanted to hear what they had to say. And his next comment was, "What would you take for the house?" And I said, "Well, I would take the $260,500. And then he came back and said, "Well, would you take 200?" And I said, "Well, first of all, I wouldn't agree to anything verbally, and I recommend that anyone in this situation say the exact same thing. Don't agree to anything verbally. Now, a real estate contract needs to be in writing, but you sure don't want your voice on tape saying, 'Yeah, I'll take 200,000.
That's what I was going to say.
Kind of wonder what
Could
can be done with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Cindy said, real estate purchase contracts have to be in writing. You can't be held to verbal. But let me let you finish the story.
Well, yeah, and so what I said was, he said, we might be able to go 215, but that would really be crunching the numbers. And I said, well, as we know, Wally and I know, having been in this business 35 years, there's a lot of things involved in a transaction besides the price. There's closing dates, there's inspections, there's earnest money, there's closing costs. But one of the things this man kept saying was, it's as is. You don't have to do anything to it. Well, what's interesting is our renters had lived in there 20 years. It was not in great condition. They had dogs. They had pets. It needed not just remodel, but cleaning,
reconditioning,
Absolutely.
And now they hadn't seen the home either, which is the big point here. But he keeps saying as is, that transpired into something different, didn't it, Cindy?
Well, yes. And so what happened was, and I would hope people listening to this would take this advice. I never ever said I would take anything verbally, but I did say, send me a contract and I'll look at it. So 3 different people called me from this company and tried to get me to agree to this verbally. The last one was out of state.
Kept sending you DocuSign documents, didn't they?
So they finally did send me a contract. And they kept calling and pressuring. And, of course, the contract said $215. But I, as a good real estate broker read the contract, and there were so many holes in it. First of all, they were only offering $500 of earnest money.
That runs up a red flag, doesn't it?
Way low.
We just don't ever let our home sellers, Dave. I mean, if a buyer walks away, you got $500 and your home's been off the market, right?
That's right.
And they wanted it off the market, didn't they, Cindy?
That's right. And there's some other pitfalls in this contract. It was really slighted towards the buyer and what was in it for them. It had an inspection period. Now, they did say it was as is, but there was a 45 business day inspection period where they could inspect the property. I couldn't sell it to anyone else. And at the end of that time period, normally our contracts call for 10 days for inspections that are not business days.
So, Dave, what was really ironic about this was the closing date in this contract that Cindy received said May 23rd. But if you counted out 45 business days for home inspections, it took the date all the way to June 10th for inspections.
Oh, wow.
And they could cancel at the last minute and get their $500 back and say, we didn't like the way the inspections came out. It makes us worry about our listeners and their friends and family members who get these cash offers that look too good to be true. You hop in, you sign the agreement, you don't have a real estate professional to look after your best interest. You suddenly realize you've tied the home up for a long time. You're not getting market value. Dave, there's an investor that is advertising a lot on Oklahoma City radio.
Yes.
I'm not going to say the name, but they do TV advertising and radio advertising. And we have 2 homes listed for sale right now. This is not my opinion. This is what the owners told me. One house we have in Midwest City, it's priced at $210. Okay. We have a buyout agreement on that for the owner. This investor offered $140 on her home, and it's worth $200. We also have one in Lexington listed at 6571 Windridge with the shop building. Dave, we have that home listed at market value at $275,000, and that very same investor went in and offered $160, and the owner had paid $240 or $250 for the home.
Do they think people are really going to let their homes go for
Well,
that?
I
or
think
why?
your point was well taken. People come to the end of that period and think, well, maybe that's all my house is worth, because they don't know the market and they haven't worked with us or another real estate professional. And so, in this particular scenario, I kept to my guns and said, I wanted to see the contract. And then once I saw it, they kept bugging me. And I said, well, first of all, the earnest money is insufficient. And second of all, the contingency period for the inspections was way too long. They did finally send me a revised contract, but I think it was still 2 or 3 weeks for the inspection period. They kept bugging me and sending me this by DocuSign.
I think the most important thing that I take out of all this is there are a lot of people that aren't clear on how much their home has gone up in value over the last 3, 4, or 5 years.
Yes.
I mean, I've seen values where I go, my goodness, I can't believe how much homes are selling for, even as much as I know about real estate. So if that's the way I look at it as a business professional in real estate, imagine what the average consumer thinks. Maybe it's somebody my mom's age who's 91 who gets something in the mail and she signs off on it and thinks, well, gosh, my house is certainly not worth that kind of money. She goes and maybe somebody signs it and the home is worth $30,000 or $40,000 more.
Wow. Okay. Well, great knowledge to have there. And again, if you come across something like this, just shoot Wally a text at 330-3000.
Yeah, or give me a call. I'll get you data and we'll make sure you're not being taken advantage of because someone tried to do it to us, we think.
Let's jump into our first House Talk segment of the day. And, on previous shows or in the past, we've talked about how the number of homes for sale is still really low at many price points and depending on each metro area as well. So
Right.
It's clear that many owners, especially with higher rates, remained, we like to say, married to the low mortgage rate. So are baby boomers to blame for the current housing shortage?
The answer to that is yes, Dave. Let me just ask you a question. Does your mother still own and live in your childhood home? Any
No.
chance? Okay, she does not. So my mom is 91, and she's a widow, and she lives in about a 2,000 square foot home on 2 acres, and she wants to stay put. And Dave, she's not a lot different from many older folks who have no plans of selling the large family home that maybe their kids grew up in. And like many of her neighbors, they all love their neighborhood and they love each other. And so today, over 78% of folks that are 60 years old and over, which probably includes a lot of our listeners, plan to stay in their homes for a number of reasons.
You know, what's interesting is I think some of them, like your mother, plan to stay because their homes are paid off. She has no mortgage.
Sure.
And her taxes are only creeping up. You know, we've talked about when someone sells a home, if she turned around and bought a smaller home, she'd be paying market value for her taxes. It's not just my mom, but it's a lot of homeowners whose taxes have not been able to be increased to actual market value because there is a statute on how quickly taxes can go up. And so she can stay in that home with it paid off very comfortably.
You know, about 51% of people, though, say that it has nothing to do with finances. Of this particular generation, fear of change.
Okay.
They feel comfortable around their neighborhood, but also around their things that are all those memories in their home.
Their possessions, their memories. Mom's got a lot of those. She'll come out to stay with me and Cindy, and then she wants to go home, and she says, I want to go home and look at my things. I want to look at my flowers. And so I think we all kind of get fixed in our ways as we get a little bit older. I wouldn't say that's a bad thing at all.
No, not at all.
But if you've had a happy life and maybe you raised your kids there, it's very common for people to be hanging on to their homes. Interestingly enough, it wasn't always this way. Just a decade ago, young families were just as likely as empty nesters to own family homes. But the last decade of underbuilding, in other words, the builders not being able to build as quickly as they needed to, has changed this. So today, do you know that empty nesters own about 28% of the large homes in the U.S.?
So do you see any chance or now the shortage getting any better?
So our eldest generation will soon, Dave, have to seek more appropriate, smaller housing as they age, and you and I would figure we would do that in our lives. So builders have been building at a pretty rapid pace trying to catch up. But guess what? Cindy, you looked at statistics that you shared with me yesterday, and the building process is slowing down now, Dave. Can you guess why there?
Just real recently, housing starts were lower in the last week. And the reason why is interest rates.
Well, and we all thought, and of course, going into this year, remember how we talked in earlier shows that we thought the Fed would cut rates in March?
Yes.
And then it looked like, well, maybe not March, so now it'll be May. Now the data that came out over the last 2 weeks says not even in June.
That's right.
So what do you think the builders did last part of 2023 and into this year? Lots of building starts because guess what? They thought rates would drop.
Yes.
And we thought rates would drop.
Got to have those homes ready for people to move into.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Now with the market moving a little slower than what everybody thought with higher interest rates, as of this week, they're back up about as high as they were last fall when they reached a peak inside the marketplace. Yes. And we are seeing some interest rates now at 7.5% to 8%. So the changing needs are showing that especially the millennials want to buy. We've talked about the Hispanic population here in the U.S. They really want to get into home ownership.
Yes.
And believe that that's part of the American dream and one of the reasons to come to the country. So those are a couple of the segments of our population who are struggling the most to be able to buy a home.
We'll be back. Stick around. Wally's Weekly Wisdom is up next.
To schedule an appointment with Wally Kerr to help you or a family member buy or sell a home, call or text at 405-330-3000 or go to wallysguarantee.com. Wally will be right back with more of the Your Home Sold Guaranteed radio show right here on KOKC.
Finding the right mortgage can be stressful, from knowing which program fits your situation the best to identifying the best terms. Hi, I'm Chris Doak with Gateway Mortgage. I work closely with you every step of the way, from pre-qualification to helping you choose the home loan that's right for you. My promise is to provide transparency, timely communication, personal service, and closings on time. Call me today at 405-253-2276. That's 405-253-2276.
NMLS 984758. Gateway Mortgage, a division of Gateway First Bank. NMLS 7233, Equal Housing Lender.
Have you heard the news? The Fed says rates will be higher for longer, so waiting to buy or sell a home no longer makes sense because competition increases in the spring for both home buyers and for home sellers too. If you'll be selling, get my guarantee in writing to sell your home at a price agreeable to you, or I'll buy it myself. Wally has the buyers. Call me today at Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty at 330-3000. and start packing. That's 330-3000.
Best Protect Roofing and Construction has been serving the Oklahoma community since 2017 with trusted professionals and a proven track record. Best Protect Roofing and Construction has the local knowledge to ensure every roofing project is compliant and hassle-free. They offer free roof inspections to assess damage, provide accurate quotes, and recommend the best solution for your home. Call today, 405-473-9599. Best Protect Roofing and Construction.
If you or a family member will be selling or buying a home and would like to schedule an appointment with Wally, call 405-330-3000 or go to wallysguarantee.com. Now back to the Your Home Sold Guaranteed radio show with Wally Kerr.
We're back, and a segment that I like a lot is Wally's Weekly Wisdom. This is pretty neat. You want to take next couple of weeks to pass on some wisdom from others that you have learned. This is Wally's Weekly Wisdom, where we impart wisdom, you impart wisdom to the listeners and make them knowledgeable of things. But you kind of want to let people know, well, this is how I gained my wisdom. This is
right.
I gleaned things from in my past. And so what do you have for us today?
Dave, today's quote is from Armstrong Williams. And of course, he's alive today. He's an American political commentator. He's an entrepreneur. He's a column author, and he's also a radio host with, get this, a net worth of $200 million.
Wow. Okay,
so
not just for being a radio host, I can tell you that
much. He's just slightly above
Where do you get that gig, right?
your net worth, Dave. So Armstrong owns Howard Stirk Holdings 1 and 2 is what they're called. It's a media conglomerate that controls a number of television stations, and it's been described as the largest minority-owned broadcast group in America.
Okay.
He says, now one thing I tell everyone is to learn about real estate. Repeat after me, he says. Real estate provides the highest returns, the greatest values, and the least risk.
I would be willing to risk a little money and wager some cash on the wisdom of someone who is worth $200 million myself.
Well, and I like him just on one fact. Now, he was born in Marion, South Carolina, in case you wondered, but he and I shared the same birthday on February 5th. Mine is in 1961 and his in 1962.
Okay.
So I'm trying to figure out additionally how this guy got to $200 million in net worth, and I'm not there yet.
You know, I think his point is good, diversifying your portfolio with real estate. And you know, that's something Wally and I have been doing. We've talked about this in many shows. We've owned real estate rentals, gotten them paid off, and that's going to provide a nice retirement for us.
It will, and it also provides this thing we call generational wealth, doesn't it? And this means for our children, so we have 2 boys, and we have 3 granddaughters, and it won't be just a matter of passing on, well, I don't think they want some of my possessions inside my, that I'm going to be hanging on to when I'm 85. That's probably not
all
what
the
they're interested
in the shop.
Yeah.
They are humble. They are humble, but what we will pass along is assets that will produce a cash flow. Imagine today if you could find a little home that maybe you bought for 70 or 80, you stuck 20 or 25 grand into it, and we come across those deals for sure. Buy that property, maybe it rents for $1,000 or $1,100 a month. What would happen if you bought something today and had it paid off in 15 years and left that for your kids or grandkids?
That's great.
As a legacy, I like the idea of rental property for a reason. Instead of going and giving a child $20,000 or $25,000 that they might go buy a car with, maybe they would do a house, a down payment.
Sure.
But as far as college goes, when you've got rental income coming in, that can help pay for tuition and books each semester, right?
You know, and another really great advantage is our oldest son has gotten involved with us on managing these rentals, on what it takes to continue to make sure that they're fixed up, that we've done improvements on them. We just did some drainage work on one of them. So he's gotten involved in understanding that, and that's a great way to learn about the rental property before they inherit it.
Real estate provides a great return, and again, I think the big one here is we've never had great risk, Cindy. The only risk we've had in owning real estate rental property or investment property is once in a while you get a renter that's not so great.
You have to plan vacancy, maintenance. That's all stuff that you just have to plan for. But it's been a great return for us, and it's also been a great way to build wealth and provide for, like Wally said, our kids in the future.
to do that and to purchase those homes, we're going to need some good interest rates. In our second House Talk segment of the day, you have some data on historic interest rates, which could be a good thing, could be a very bad thing, but this might surprise some of our listeners, right?
Well, I think it will, Dave. So would you guess that current interest rates, so we talked in the show today, for most borrowers, let's say generally speaking, 7 to 8% on 30-year mortgages. Now, we don't normally quote quite that high, but to get a 7% rate, 7.25 today, got to have a pretty darn good credit score. Like,
Yes.
let's say 760, 780 or above, and that's stellar for a credit score. So would you guess, Dave, knowing that rates are somewhere 7, 7.5, maybe as high as 8 today on a 30-year mortgage, would you guess that we're right in the middle of rates over the last 50 years? Would you say that that number is higher or lower than the average over the last 50 years? Just take a guess.
On the average, and I'm going to say this based off my mother-in-law telling me that they purchased homes back in maybe the late 80s, and
Right.
there was rates up in the high teens.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say we're kind of where we were maybe about 50 years ago. So I would say maybe a little bit lower.
Okay, so let me read you this chart of mortgage rates over the last 50 years. We're actually in the lowest 1/3 of all of these rates. So in 1975, the average mortgage rate was just above 9. And then in 1980, it was 5 points higher at about 14.5%. In 1985, it was a click below that at about 13%. 5 years later, in 1990, it was 3 clicks down on interest rate from about 13% to 10%. Now, that's about the time Cindy and I got in real estate. I remember people running out and fighting for Oklahoma bond money. Rates were about 10 to 10.5%, and the bond money was 8.625, which is 8 5/8%, and people were fighting for it. Okay,
Wow.
So in
It's all relative, isn't
Yes.
it?
so in 1990, about 10%. In 1995, rates were down just below 9. And in the year 2000, now that's not that long ago, is it?
No.
So mortgage rates in the year 2000, about 24 years ago, were about 8.25%, just slightly above where they are today. Now in 2005, below 6%. In 2010, right at 5%. Would you believe in 2015, the average mortgage rate? About 3.75%, 3.75% in 2015. And we were busy buying and selling a lot of homes. 2020, okay, there's the bottom,
Yes.
2.75%. And then finally, where are we today? Right now, around 7%. So again, out of all those years and half decades that we explored every 5 years, there was 2/3 of those rates that we just mentioned were higher and about 1/3 that were lower. Does that surprise you?
No, but I do have a question real quick. We do know, because of air quotes here, the COVID years, that was kind of a manufactured rate, but it was lower even before them. And for like 10 to 15 years, coming down. So to lower those rates, that means inflation and stuff was up. Is that right? So the economy wasn't doing so well. So that means the rates were coming down.
There were probably a lot of factors that affected it, but generally speaking, you're right. The Fed thought that they needed to stimulate spending, so the rates became lower. So let me ask you both, Dave, do you think people stopped buying houses during those high rate periods?
You know, I bought a house in California in 1982, and the owner financed it for 13%.
Ouch. Ooh.
Because the going rate was 15%. So
Oh, wow. Now, see, I guess I bought my first home in 1982 or 83, and I got a 10.5% interest rate. So I must have gotten pretty lucky. So, Dave, have you ever heard of what are called the 5 Ds?
No.
Okay. So it's a humorous way. Okay, I'm not surprised you haven't heard it. It's a humorous way of referring to buyers and the reason for buying. So the first D is for divorce. Okay, so people get divorced,
yes. Okay.
and people are buying homes, and so there's, people that want to sell for the right price, and so D and divorce is one reason, and then of course some people split and they want to buy a home individually, each person. The second D is for diamonds. When getting married, you remember that one,
Okay,
don't
I
you,
see
Dave?
where we're going. Yes.
Okay,
All right.
you remember where'd you buy Kim's diamond? Do you remember?
Well, the actual diamond was my grandmother's.
Oh, nice.
And I took it to a store, and I designed the ring myself.
Wow.
I had the whole thing made around that diamond.
I'm feeling a little inadequate
added
now.
some other diamonds into it, and so it was a custom job, custom designed by Dancing Dave McKay.
And
So
with
you-
a lot of meaning, too.
Yes.
That's what's great.
So you buy a diamond, you get married, but then you're kind of looking for a house, aren't you? A
Yes,
place to set up a
absolutely.
nest. So what's next? Diapers. You remember that one, don't you,
You're
Dave?
going to say dependent. But that is
No,
the same
the
thing,
D
yeah.
for depends come on step 5 here in a minute, Dave. We're only on number 3. So, but yeah, when you start a family, again, you want a home and a place to build your nest. And so that's all good. And you have your family, and then one day down the road, there's kind of the end of life. And there's some phases in between. There's
Yes.
probably family and then empty nest. But one day we're not here on the earth anymore, so there's death. And that's one of the 5 Ds. The 5th one is not a D, though. It's a job transfer. So
We couldn't make that
couldn't
work.
figure out how to make that one
I
work.
thought you were
but
going to go with like diversify or something really wide ranging, but
that's another reason people buy. So in all of these 5 Ds over the years, no matter when it was, do you think people bought houses for all of those reasons over the last 50 years?
absolutely.
Yep.
So have you ever heard the concept of stagflation? Do you remember that? This was a term that was pretty common back from 1973 to about 1982.
Okay.
I expect a lot of our listeners that listen to our show probably remember that. And it's just simply the simultaneous appearance in an economy of, number 1, slow growth, number 2, high unemployment. That's not where we are today. And number 3, rising prices. So think about that again in your mind. So slow growth in the economy and high unemployment.
Yes.
Because people aren't employed, and then rising prices. And it's characterized by large budget deficits. That certainly sounds familiar
Yeah,
today,
that
doesn't it?
does.
So do you think people still bought homes during that time? Absolutely. Of course they did. So I hope that putting today's interest rates into perspective, even in all the things we've talked about, the 5 Ds and stagflation and the fact that rates have been as high as, what'd you say, like in the high teens, 17,
Yes,
18%.
yes.
I've heard those stories. I hope that this will help those that are on the fence realize that if you can qualify, now's the time to get in, because waiting for lower rates only brings increased competition and higher prices.
You got to think about your future and down the road too, because if you get into it, there's different ways to get into it as well. Like when we talked with Chris Doak last week,
That's right.
There's buy downs, and you can do it where you have the 3-2-1 and step up to these higher interest rates. And then by the time you're 2 or 3 years in, it could be down to a 5, and you can refinance. But you're going to be a couple of years older, and everything in your life has already moved down the road, and you're kind of catching up with your home buying purchase. You kind of want to get that under your belt, and you want the equity start to grow. So when you do become an empty nester, you have more equity, you have more years under your belt. It really pays off down the road. And really, the one thing that we really hang our hat on is something we probably shouldn't worry too much about it in the grand scheme of things. 5 to 10 years down the road, we're going to be better off getting into home ownership or purchasing that home that we do need as soon as we can.
And I like what you said about building that equity. And then I look at somebody like Wally's mom, whose house is paid off.
Yes.
And now she's got an asset that if she does come to live with family, or if she needs to go and get extra care somewhere, she's got an asset that she can sell and use.
So, Dave, you mentioned buy down, and I just want to finish. Here's the secret tip. So we talked a little earlier. The builders have got lots of inventory out there.
Yes.
You talked about buy down. We're seeing the builders advertising really hard and saying, hey, realtors, bring your customers to us. We can help them get a lower interest rate. We've got a lot of inventory on the ground. We also thought the Fed was going to drop the rates, and they didn't. We understand it's harder for people with affordability today. So bring your buyers, and we'll help them achieve a much more affordable payment by paying closing costs, buying down the rate, or doing either paying points or actually doing one of these 2-1 or 3-2-1 buy downs. And these builders want us to represent customers and bring them the customers. So the good news is we can help assist you, and the builders are asking us to bring you in. Give us a call and we'll help you with some of the best buys in the marketplace right now, which are actually on brand new homes.
Well, stick around. We're going to talk about some of the best buys and some of the listings of the week in open houses next.
To schedule an appointment with Wally Kerr to help you or a family member buy or sell a home, call or text at 405-330-3000 or go to wallysguarantee.com. Wally will be right back with more of the Your Home Sold Guaranteed radio show right here on KOKC.
Looking for a cash offer for your home? If so, do you want to see just one offer, or would you prefer to receive multiple cash offers and you get to choose the one you want? IWantMultipleOffers.com is the place to go, and that's exactly what you'll get fast. You choose the closing date, no open houses, no strangers in your home, and no waiting to receive an offer. You can sell as is. Today we know that homeowners like you want options. Our cash offer program, where you receive multiple offers, not just one, allows you to do what you want to do. If the cash offers aren't quite as high as you want, you still have the option of placing your home for sale for only as long as you want. 1 week, 2 weeks, a month, you choose. And if it's not sold in that agreed period, you can take any one of the cash offers, including one from us. Visit IWantMultipleOffers.com. Get the options you want, or just give us a call today. Wally and Cindy Kerr at Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty at 330-3000.
Best Protect Roofing and Construction has been serving the Oklahoma community since 2017 with trusted professionals and a proven track record. Best Protect Roofing and Construction has the local knowledge to ensure every roofing project is compliant and hassle-free. They offer free roof inspections to assess damage, provide accurate quotes, and recommend the best solution for your home. Call today, 405-473-9599. Best Protect Roofing and Construction.
Finding the right mortgage can be stressful, from knowing which program fits your situation the best to identifying the best terms. Hi, I'm Chris Doak with Gateway Mortgage. I work closely with you every step of the way, from pre-qualification to helping you choose the home loan that's right for you. My promise is to provide transparency, timely communication, personal service, and closings on time. Call me today at 405-253-2276. That's 405-253-2276.
NMLS 984758, Gateway Mortgage, a division of Gateway First Bank. NMLS 7233, Equal Housing Lender.
If you or a family member will be selling or buying a home and would like to schedule an appointment with Wally, call 405-330-3000 or go to wallysguarantee.com. Now back to the Your Home Sold Guaranteed radio show with Wally Kerr.
Well, another fun segment right here. We get to hear about the homes that you have available if we're looking around. We're in the market, maybe looking for a move. Maybe we have a job transfer, different parts of the metro. And,
Diapers, diamonds.
Diamonds, yes.
And
that's
hopefully not depends.
Yeah.
No, we want to diversify.
There you
And,
go.
maybe looking to buy another home.
There's another D.
Wally has the houses.
We do have some houses. I tell you what, our inventory is quite low.
Okay.
So if you're looking for a realtor that has the time to spend on your property and really take and put our focus into the marketing on your property, creating more demand so that your home sells faster and for more money, give us a call, because I'm down, Dave, to less than a dozen active listings right now on the market. Now, we have some that are being held off the market while owners prepare them. I've alluded for a couple of weeks here, we've got a property that's being worked on in Blanchard on an acre with a really nice insulated shop building. I think I just heard some ears pop up across the metro right here on the radio show for some men that are looking for a shop building, and maybe a woman also.
That's right.
Who's got hobbies that she wants to do. So we've got some things coming up, and then we've got some motivated owners, and then we've got some new listings. So first of all, only one open house this weekend, Dave.
Okay.
Had a bunch of them last week. So 2409 Southeast 12th Street is in the Rock Creek Addition in Moore. It's one of Moore's favorite affordable type neighborhoods.
Yes.
This is a 2,275 square foot home. Open Sunday, 1 to 2 p.m. only. That's a
Okay.
short open house, almost 2,300 feet. Owned by the original owner and built in 2008 and just lovingly cared for. It's a 4-bed plus study. It's got extensive wood flooring, 2 bedrooms on one side of the home, 2 bedrooms on the other. That's going to fit a lot of families. Big covered patio, great yard, community park, community pool. That home is $360,000 and priced to sell. Got a brand new listing in northwest Oklahoma City. Dave, in the PC North District, we've got a new listing in a cul-de-sac that's sitting very close in the backyard to a greenbelt with this big covered patio. It's 6213 Winchester Drive. It's very close to 122nd and MacArthur. This is a 4-bed with 2 primary bedrooms. One upstairs and one downstairs.
Does that mean they both have master baths?
They do. They do.
Oh,
So
nice.
bathroom, nice big closet, a fireplace in one of those. That's nice and cozy.
Yeah, I like that.
Here's what I like is this home has been remodeled. It's a little Tudor style.
Okay.
But it's been remodeled very modern with very contemporary paint colors and LED light fixtures, lots of real pretty quartz in all the bathrooms and inside the kitchen, beautiful wood floors, nice quality Shaw carpeting, brand new tile work that's been done. Even all the landscaping in the flower beds have been redone. It's very pretty.
Okay.
This is 6213 Winchester Drive. It's $425,000 at about 3,000 square feet. That's a great new listing in northwest Oklahoma City. Want to jump on that. That's an area where there's not very many homes for sale and where a lot of parents want to live today. Couple of really important price reductions. Do we have time for those, Dave?
Sure, let's do
okay.
it.
Got two that my owners are very motivated. They're up in that upper price range, and those
Okay.
homes are maybe moving a little bit slower. So 1200 Southern Hills Circle that we've talked about a couple of times on the show is on 2 acres and backs a golf course. It's 2 miles from the OU campus. Pool, spa, 5,200 feet, 5 bedrooms, 4.5 baths. The owners cut that price by $55,000 over the last 2 weeks.
Okay.
From $950,000 down to $895,000. If you know someone looking for a really scenic setting in a luxury home, be sure and tell them about that one. And then another one with a seller who's ready to sell. It's a great home. It's worth every penny of what they're asking. Is at 3605 Joshua Lane in the gated Joshua's Landing Edition in Moore. There's a swim beach. They actually have a pond with a swim beach, Dave, where the Homeowners Association hauled in sand.
Oh, wow.
And there's a big waterfall at one end of it. Not a place for fishing.
Okay.
It's just for swimming that's the community swimming hole. And everybody
wow,
inside the neighborhood has
beautiful.
access. It's gorgeous.
This house has a wall of windows in the back that just overlooks this, and it's on 2 acres, isn't it?
It's on about 1.4 acres,
Okay.
just almost 5,000 feet, only 10 years old, so a lot of the luxury amenities, Dave. Pot filler over the cooktop, bun warmer or bread warmer, like a warming drawer underneath the ovens
Yes.
in the kitchen. It's got a bar area with an ice maker and a beverage cooler and a media room. And I mean, I could go on and on
You
this
know, with
one.
the
It's a
colder
great
weather
property.
today, I can really go for a bun warmer. But that sounds.
I knew you were going to
Cindy, do you have a match? I think I can fix that up here pretty quickly.
She knows me too well because she starts to look. Oh no!
Oh, here
hopefully
it
he'll sidestep
comes.
this. Well, if I go out to look at those homes, Cindy, is the first thing I should do is look at the baseboards? Because you were saying something before this segment. You and Wally were talking about, and you were saying, well, they just need to look at the baseboards or something about baseboards, which has
Well-
me very intrigued. Why did you say that?
Well, that's a good lead into our next segment. I don't know that that's the first thing you want to
Okay.
look at when you go in a house, but you know what? Baseboards can tell about a house. So they can clue you into the overall condition of the home. You know, how well it's taken care of, if there's been water damage, if it's been cleaned. What about pests? Do you ever remember that little cartoon where the mouse would come out of the hole in the
Tom and
baseboard?
Jerry.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a cute little mouse.
Oh, I love Tom and Cherry. I probably watched every episode as a kid.
So you can tell if a house has been renovated, and if it has a rodent problem, that might show up too. If there's been floor settlement, sometimes the baseboards have a gap below them, between them and the floor. And if
Okay.
there's not carpet there, that's pretty obvious. So baseboards can tell a lot about a house.
We've had some folks go into homes that have been flipped who have a really good sharp eye like we do, and they'll walk in and say, I'm just not really impressed with how the woodwork came out, how it meets in the corners. It's a little bit, wasn't cut to the right angle.
Ah, yes.
It wasn't painted very well on the inside. There's lots of little dead giveaways, Dave, that you can look for. And if you don't have that trained eye, maybe you do need us. Maybe you need to call us, because I think we've stumbled onto something here when we're talking about baseboards, and that is, when you tour a home, don't just look up. Don't just look at the walls and the pretty appliances and the quartz that's been put in and the tile backsplashes. But I think what Cindy's saying here is look down and pay attention to everything inside the home.
I think what you're saying is maybe one of those last things that you don't think about when you're the home owner and you're going through and cleaning. So I've noticed...
That's a great point.
I've noticed going to someone's home before, and if you actually look up this time and you look at the ceiling fans, you might notice that there's the dust on the ceiling fans. They didn't have time to get to it, or they just didn't think about it because it's kind of out of sight, out of mind, especially like baseboards. You say something interesting with flooding. I didn't think about that, but you really can notice some damage and stuff to baseboards, and that will lend you into bigger issues you want to investigate. So if you notice that, yes.
Here's something that you can really look at that's easy to identify how well the work's been done. Baseboards should look like one piece of wood down at the bottom of the floor. It shouldn't look like they're pieced together. Crown molding in a really pretty home should look like one continuous piece instead of having gaps or being uneven. The casing around the door should also look like one piece of wood. There shouldn't be gaps and it shouldn't be uneven.
And another telltale sign of great woodwork is when you see a house that's got rounded sheetrock corners. Some of the higher end homes don't have sheetrock corners that are square, but they're rounded. Well, think about that baseboard. Now they're going to have some craftsmen who cut that baseboard and make it look like Wally said, like it's one continuous piece, but in fact it's wood going around a circular movement there. So that is a telltale sign of the craftsmanship of the home.
Little nuances to really kind of check out next time you're checking out a home, if you will. We're going to take a quick break. We're back in 2 minutes and we'll wrap up the show. Stick around.
To schedule an appointment with Wally Kerr to help you or a family member buy or sell a home, call or text at 405-330-3000 or go to wallysguarantee.com. Wally will be right back with more of the Your Home Sold Guaranteed radio show right here on KOKC.
Hey, it's Wally. Don't forget that I'll sell your home guaranteed at a price agreeable to you or buy it myself for more than most investors will pay. To get my guarantee in writing, call or text me today at Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty at 330-3000. 330-3000.
Finding the right mortgage can be stressful. From knowing which program fits your situation the best to identifying the best terms. Hi, I'm Chris Doak with Gateway Mortgage. I work closely with you every step of the way, from pre-qualification to helping you choose the home loan that's right for you. My promise is to provide transparency, timely communication, personal service, and closings on time. Call me today at 405-253-2276. That's 405-253-2276.
NMLS 984758. Gateway Mortgage, a division of Gateway First Bank. NMLS 7233. Equal housing lender.
So you thought interest rates were going to go down? Hey, me too. It's Wally Kerr, and despite today's interest rates, the market's already picking up. Why sell your home without a safety net? It's like walking a high wire at the circus. There's just too much at stake. Call me to get your written guarantee that I'll sell your home in an agreed period or buy it myself at a price you and I agree to up front. Ask for Wally when you call us today at Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty at 330-3000. 330-3000.
Best Protect Roofing and Construction has been serving the Oklahoma community since 2017 with trusted professionals and a proven track record. Best Protect Roofing and Construction has the local knowledge to ensure every roofing project is compliant and hassle-free. They offer free roof inspections to assess damage, provide accurate quotes, and recommend the best solution for your home. Call today, 405-473-9599. Best Protect Roofing and Construction.
If you or a family member will be selling or buying a home and would like to schedule an appointment with Wally, call 405-330-3000 or go to wallysguarantee.com. Now back to the Your Home Sold Guaranteed radio show with Wally Kerr.
Because I know how the closet gets because of Kim.
Yeah.
I'm laughing here because we're live back on the show, and I think our listeners are probably getting a kick out of this. Dave just had some California closet additions made to your closet, and and you probably heard Cindy talking about the size of my closet, which is a lot smaller than hers. As far as men, we know where we fit in this world, don't we, Dave?
We know our roles.
You know, we wouldn't be nearly as tough as we thought we were. We'd probably think we were tougher if Cindy wasn't on the show, but we have to give in where we know we need to.
Absolutely. Well, hey, let's wrap up today's show with an update on interest rates, the local housing market. What have you seen, Wally?
And before we do that, Dave, let me just take a right turn here for a minute and mention that we are looking aggressively for a few agents to join our team. If you are motivated, if you're a bit of a self-starter, if you would like to be provided appointments and have the strength of a real estate company with the name that promises to sellers exactly what's going to happen. Your home sold, guaranteed realty. And that's the reason that we went with the franchise. We do write guarantees, and we're looking for a couple of agents to join our team immediately to help us get through spring and summer, because we're getting very busy, and even into next year and the years coming. So sure, Dave, we could end today's show talking about Fed Chairman Jerome Powell telling the U.S. and the committees this week that the U.S. economy has not seen inflation come back to the central bank's goal of 2%, and also pointing to the further unlikelihood that interest rate cuts are in the offering anytime soon.
Sure.
Policymakers have said since the start of the year that rate cuts are contingent on gaining greater confidence that inflation is moving toward the central bank's goal of 2%. But Dave, readings over the past few months, and we've talked about it here on the show price pressures that may even be moving in the opposite direction. And the recent data has clearly not given us greater confidence, he said, and instead indicates that it's likely to take longer than expected to achieve that confidence. And this was at a banking forum just a few days ago.
So these rates are probably here to stay, and we can see it actually going up. And this is the season when people are buying or selling, and the rates are usually, working wonders, so everyone's happy. But we're seeing stuff that could actually go up. Is that right?
Well, I'm not going to take a flag into battle and say that quite yet, but it is possible. And what happens with rates, as we all know, relies heavily on future economic data that comes out of Washington.
And I'd like people, if they can qualify, to kind of look at rates over that chart of the last 50 years. So don't just think about the rate that was 2 or 3 years ago.
Sure.
We are in a period of really good rates, the lowest 1/3 in the last 50 years.
For those who have been waiting, rates have actually gone up again. So, we've suggested over the last couple of months here that buying sooner than later would likely benefit a homeowner. In meantime, home sales are increasing, and the market is really hungry for new inventory. We talked about new listings today. I think some of these will jump right off the rack. So if you're a home buyer sitting on the sidelines and you think you're going to buy this year, I just don't see any reason at all to wait.
Great information, and a reminder that everything you need to know about real estate you can learn on this show from Dave McKay with a little help from Wally and Cindy Kerr.
You've learned a lot, Dave.
You know what? To be
asked
honest,
some great questions.
I really have, and when people start talking about real estate, I don't know where it's coming from.
You're just spouting all this wealth of knowledge.
Yes, it's fantastic. Well, with over 150 different subjects that we've broached over the year plus.
We've just about hit it all, but we keep working to bring new information to the table each and every
week.
week.
We have someone here helping you with that. We bring us new information. She does a fantastic job.
They always say if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in trouble. And I think that was where you and I were and before we added Cindy to our show about 2-3 months ago.
Well,
it's great to have Cindy on the show to be that third voice, to give her input. She's been in real estate, folks, just as long as I have been. It's funny. Don't think we've ever talked about this, Dave. Cindy's from L.A. She's from Ventura County, and she was licensed in real estate in July of 1987. And I was licensed in July of 1987 in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. And we met at a real estate conference in Cancun, Mexico. We've both been in exactly the same amount of time. You may call this the Your Home Sold Guaranteed radio show with Wally Kerr. We need to get Cindy's name all over this show. She's on the billboards with us if you see us around the metro. That's who we are. We really don't have total faces for radio, so we were brave enough to put our pictures up on a billboard. Wave and let us know. Text us at 330-3000 if you've seen our billboards up, and let us know if you enjoy the show and any topics perhaps that you would like us to talk about. We've talked about, again, over 150 different subjects that haven't had the same title. But what would you like to hear about as our listeners? What could we talk about on an upcoming show and spend 5 or 10 minutes discussing maybe a topic that you haven't caught on the show or that you'd like us to elaborate on?
So can they just text the topic to 330-3000?
Sure. You don't even have to talk to us. Just text 330-3000 and say, please, on an upcoming show, talk about this. And we'll plan to work that into one of our shows.
I do have a question, but first, I want to mention that you can listen to the show on the major podcast platforms. and at wallytalkshouses.com, where it's all bite-sized morsels. You can find the topic that you want to just listen to, just a few topics. And if you're listening live today, Saturdays when we do the show live, you can tune in tomorrow, hear the show in its entirety starting at noon. If you're listening on a Sunday, well, we were here yesterday, and but you're listening to the replay, and that's when we do the replay as well.
Dave, always great to be here and do the show with you. Thanks for joining us this week. It was a lot of fun.
You guys have a great week as well.
You too.
You've been listening to the Your Home Sold Guaranteed radio show with Wally Kerr. Heard every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. and replayed on Sundays at noon here on 1520 a.m. and 95.3 FM KOKC. Wally's name is his promise. Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. To speak with Wally directly about selling your home or buying, call or text him to schedule an appointment at 405-330-3000, 405-330-3000, or go to wallysguarantee.com. That's wallysguarantee.com.